Hello everyone, welcome to a huge edition of the Hong Kong horse racing vodcast all around the world. I'm Jason Richardson. I'm joined by two legends of Hong Kong racing in Hong Kong, Hutchi with hutchishonkers.com and also Hall of Fame jockey in Shane Dye. Hutch, great to chat to you, mate. You're having a little holiday at the moment, but you got your eye on Sha Tin on Saturday.
Yeah, a little holiday, working holiday for just a day or two here while we have a look at Hong Kong on the weekend, and really looking forward to the Saturday meeting. I prefer the Sundays, I must admit, but look, it's the calm before the storm. We've got the big meeting, the Group 1 meeting next weekend, but there's still it's actually a pretty good meeting this weekend. We've got 10 races there, a little mixed card, but hopefully we'll be able to find a few winners and discuss what's transpired in the last week.
Yeah, a little calm before the storm, RS Dye. You'd probably prefer the Sunday meeting, giving you that extra day to prepare.
Yeah, Saturday you don't have enough time to do it, or the way I do it, but it is what it is. It's good Clint's come to the land of the living at the Gold Coast, eh? You seen the light, Clint?
Yes, I must admit I can see why you like this part of the world, Shane, but we'll be catching up while I'm here as well. But
Richo, I got a little call from Clint saying, Shane, I'll come and see you tomorrow for the last and then we can go out.
Uh-oh. I tell you what, I've got serious FOMO. I'll be in Sydney for the races, but I'm thinking about making a little jet straight to Gold Coast just to catch up with you two. I reckon you'll be on fire. Hey, we've got a huge show coming up, boys. Of course, the Genius and Slaughter is always one of our features. We'll jump into the Hong Kong Racing School and learn some more about the class divisions and going up and down divisions. I'm really looking forward to that one. Of course, we'll identify 2 or 3 key races on Saturday, plus Hutchi's absolute best. We're going to burst out of the gates in a moment. And also, we've got a former South African young star who's in his first season of riding in Hong Kong in Luke Ferraris, who's going to be our star power guest. But first, let's get those barriers open and burst out of the gate. As we burst out of the barriers, Hutchi Joe Moreira, he cut it nice and fine with Wonderful Warrior.
Yeah, he did. It was quite. It reminded me of Luke Nolan at Royal Ascot when he thought he had them all covered on Black Caviar. To be honest, with Wonderful Warrior, and as we see when he pulls off the Cheval Valiant's heels in this replay, and just hands and heels all the way to the line, and he looks around. You can see him take a peek over his right shoulder, and he realises there's nothing coming that way. He's got the horse on his inside covered, but he, according to the steward's report, inverted commas, didn't see flying high, Shane, and it was nearly a very, very costly miss by Joe.
Yeah, he got lucky, Clint. He would have got 6 months, I think, if it had got beat, but it won. He looked after him, which is good, but he should have showed a little bit more vigour. But I reckon he gets 6 months for sure, and could have got longer if he gets beat.
And it's just a little brain explosion there, Shane, where you literally don't see it, or you don't realise how quick the other horse is coming at you, and you have that little moment like Luke Nolan did on Black Caviar, and all of a sudden you go, oh my God, I'm going to blow this.
Well, can tell you what happened. Joe likes to ride them out and win easy on these young horses, which isn't very good because they win by too far and they go into class 3. And I'm against that. I like to win by half a length. So Casper would have told him not to win by too far. And if he's got the race won, that's good as gold. And Joe didn't see the other horse coming because, look, if you win by 3-4 lengths, you go up 10, 14 points, and then they're thrown in the deep end in class 3. And the handicappers just overdo it with these promising young horses. Because of that, not winning by far, what did he get, Clint? I didn't even look.
I haven't double-checked either, but I would imagine with that small margin, 5 or 6 would be the maximum, wouldn't it, Shane? But yeah, it is my bugbear as well. Rich, I can't stand it when jockeys don't ride them out to the line. We see it all over the world. Just ride them out to the line. Shane was very good at timing his run back in the day, but I prefer to see him just ride them out. You see it time and time again, and as a punter, it's very, very, very frustrating.
Well, yeah, no circumstances, yeah, but if you've got a race one, you're going to win easy. I disagree a little bit because it can hurt the horse for the future. You've got to look after them, but he overdid it then, and he didn't see the outside horse coming, and it was a mistake by him. And as I said, if he had got beat, he probably gets 6 months, maybe longer.
Well, Blake Shin certainly rode out Nervous Witness, and maybe the last 50 metres, those that took the shorts were a little nervous. Shane, what did you make of Nervous Witness, and what's next?
I thought he was disappointing. I think he's at his mark now. I thought he was better than this. He had an easy lead. He ran the time again. He always does. We can see that later on. But I thought he was better than this. But all you can do is win, and he's won again. But I don't know. There's 2 races coming up for him. One's on the 24th at 1,200 metres, 105 to 80 at Sharton, or he goes back to Happy Valley on the 27th for 1,000 metres. So I don't know if he'll run the 1,200. He may be better off rolling along in front in the 1,200. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not convinced. But he's getting to his mark, that horse, and he's not as good as I thought he was.
Hutch, what did you make of him in the end? Once the dust settled, you were on a couple of horses to knock him off at a big price and you just missed. What did you think?
I thought, well, look, Blake rated him a little bit. He probably, he didn't go as quick as he can. So on my stuff, he didn't quite get to the figure that he can in the past. I think it was probably a good educational run for him once again. I mean, it's only basically still his first preparation. I do feel that 1,200 will be okay for him if they leave him alone and he can dictate the pace. If he gets taken on and he gets too fierce, it's an issue. But I think you might see a better horse over 1,200 potentially, and he might be better in time. But I can see what Shane's saying. He's sort of reaching his mark now, and to take that next step, he's going to need to improve. I just don't know if he's got that brilliant turn of foot, but what he can do over 1,200 if he's allowed to dictate, like with Zach on him, for example, and he gradually builds, he might be very hard to run down. But he's still a very exciting horse. I think he can go higher, but he's going to need to lift, like Shane says, off what he's done there.
And it's unique, isn't it? Shartin, 1,000 metres, Shane. It's an interesting challenge. Compare some times for us.
If you have a look at Nervous Witness, he just runs 55 seconds every week. And I said that last time. Here you go. These are his runs up the straight. Look at that. Very similar. And he keeps running it. Those are his 5 runs. Now have a look at Carroll Street. Those are his runs. He's more a 56 horse than a 55, although he has run a 55.36. His last run was the bottom one, which was 55.97. So that's the difference. And that's why I tipped him last week on times. I know you got wind assistance and other things up the straight, but this horse does it with weight or without weight, Nervous Witness, every week, and he'll continue to do it.
What was that performance of the week, Hutch?
Well, it's a very interesting one, and Running Glory. I mean, time ran out for him with regard to the Derby, Richo, but he was the performance of the week. This was over 1,800 metres. There was good speed in the race. He's been pretty good to us and a lot of people that they've kept following him, but they rolled along at a genuine tempo here. Look, just as a point of reference, he is a 4-year-old, so in his years he would have been eligible for the Derby. He couldn't get there because he hadn't had the rating or the racing up to this point in time. But this particular win, I had it 2 lengths off the Classic Cup win the day California Spangle beat a host of other runners. So he's not that far away from some of the better 4-year-olds. And Shane, he just keeps getting better and better. He's a really nice horse. The thing I like about him, the best part of his races are always the last 200. He is strong through the line. I don't know where his ceiling is at this point.
Well, he hasn't had much racing and he's improving with every run. And next season he'll be a nice horse, 1,800, 2,000. The further he goes, the better he's going to be, Clint. I think we can all agree to that. But he's not going to run into those long distance races, which he may want. But still, he can't do any more than win. He looks nice and he's going higher, as you said.
We affectionately call it the Ocky and the Veandercross. It's Shane Dye's assessment of the genius rides and the slaughter of the week.
They sweep for home now. Veandercross has come very wide. Veandercross answering the urgings of Shane Dye. Mannerism coming at him. Mannerism has got it.
Daring tactics by Shane Dye. He's got Octagonal in full flight on the corner. Bold tactics by Shane Dye are going to pay off, and he pinches the Chipping Norton.
RS Dye, let's start with the positive. What was the genius ride, the octagonal ride of the week?
Well, no one will realise this, but Matthew Chadwick on Wednesday night in this race here, he's drawn the outside. Now, on Wednesday night, he committed to going forward. This is a horse who can race off the pace. You see him riding him very strongly. Now, why this was a good ride was because on Wednesday night, the track was hot on pace. It was so hot you could not get back. I know Joe got back on 2 favourites on the fence and won, but he was lucky. A saved ground, good ride by Joe. But this track was just off on Wednesday night, so you had to be forward. He's kept riding, bustling along when this horse can get back, and he's kind of got cover until they crossed to the fence, and he's still 3 deep. But he won the race by then by going forward. Most jockeys would have been back. And when he couldn't get forward early and clear them, he committed to staying forward instead of losing 3 lengths and coming back, which a lot of jockeys do. And I thought he committed before the race. He knew the track, the bias, and being 3 wide doesn't matter if it's the way the track is racing. And Clint, on Wednesday night, I'm sure you'll agree, that track was so hot on pace.
Yeah, I didn't see it. Well, look, I didn't see it quite as biased as that, but I take your point on board. It wasn't a bad spot to be. Yeah, I've got to say this, though, Shane. You poor old Moreira on Nearly Fun. I think he deserves a notable mention. It was an unbelievably good ride from
I said that he had 2 winners. The only 2 horses that come from back were on fence favourites, right? On from back on the fence were on fence on back favourites, I should say. And Joe rode them very well, but that's all he could do. He couldn't do anything different from the gates.
Yeah, that's a fair call, but he still, I thought,
Dad could have gone back from the gate on that horse, and he didn't, Chadwick.
Yeah, no, it was a nice end result there for Street Scheme. He'd been racing well, hadn't he, without luck from the barriers, but Matty Chadwick certainly got the plaudits this week.
Who didn't get the plaudits? Who caught the ire of RS Dye?
Another one on Wednesday night, didn't use the gate to his advantage, and he could have. If you watch here from gate 1, family folks, Hamlin, now he should have been trailing the horse from gate 2, which was Decisive 12, who was going to be leading. If he does, he wins the race for sure, I think. It cost him the race. Now, you'll see in the back, he's still got enough time to get up here on the fence. Sack is wanting to stay off, and he's looked a couple of times, but then he just allows him to go. He got beat ahead, and that was the difference between winning or losing. Although I must say that Joe was following him on Seize the Moment, and he would have been a spot closer, so he still may have run over top of him. But that track was so on pace dominated, I felt, on Wednesday night, that if he had to be forward following Decisive 12, and he just allowed him 1 spot further back. And as you can see, Joe will hug the rail, save the ground, which he always does now at Happy Valley, and he wins. If that horse is 1 spot closer, he may win, but Joe is 1 spot closer. He definitely runs second. There's no risk about that.
Gee, Hutchi, it's fine line, isn't it, Hutch?
Yeah, it is. And these points that Shane brings up, sometimes people may feel we're being a bit harsh because they could have been 1 spot closer, but that's the nature of Hong Kong racing. It's so even. Those little decisions have a really big impact, and that little spot that you should have taken and those critical decisions, it's important anywhere, but you just notice it in Hong Kong, and that's why we always talk about the mats and settling positions and barriers at the Valley, because that little spot can make all the difference. Well, Shane, while I've got you there, though, I've got to ask you one thing in terms of paces while we're talking about. What on earth was going on here in this race? Chadwick drew the inside on Smiling City. Now, you'll see Turquoise Hope with Lyle Hewitson sort of go forward. I can't understand why at this point he doesn't press on that extra quarter of a length and cross Matt Chadwick, who looked to be happy to hand up at this point. And then he just sits there, and now we've got sort of 4 abreast at the front of the field in a slowly run race. But just little things like that. I know he was on a big outsider, but I just felt that lead was up for grabs at that point, and it sort of really changed. It was just a weird race to watch as a consequence.
Yeah, well, before the race, there wasn't a lot of gate speed in the race, and I didn't know what was going to lead that race, but you're correct. He should have showed initiative and just gone straight to the front, but he didn't. There's not much I can say, Clint,
Yeah, no, it was just one of those strange races. Then Matt at Chadwick obviously ended up just happy to take the trail, scooted through. In terms of sort of assessing these races, these are a little bit harder to assess going forward, though, I find, Shane, when you've got muddling tempos. It's a bit messy for a few runners, and you don't sort of get a genuine guide. Where one thing in Hong Kong racing we're used to is a more genuine speed, and it sort of, sorts them out, makes the form a little easier to find. When they're muddling like that, it can really make it more difficult going forward.
But it's good for someone like me that understands bias of tracks when they don't go fast and the first 3 or 4 run the first 3 or 4. And something I think is going to run well is back in the field, makes up about 1 or 2 lengths and finishes 7th or 8th and looks disappointing. And I go, well, geez, that next time will go well. And that's what you got to do. You got to adapt and add links onto their run, even though they've run nowhere. Understand, Clint? You would.
Hey, just while I've got you, Shane, and while we're talking about tempo, can I take you back to the last race at Sha Tin on Sunday? There was a lot of social media commentary around after Silver Express with Zach led one and bolted in. And a lot of people, a lot of punters saying, hang on, why didn't one of the other jockeys take off and put him under some sort of pressure? They, in effect, gave him the race. Do the jockeys at the back have any chance?
No, well, they did give him the race. I think there was Joe on Good Luck Friend who could lead, Hinch and Love could lead, and they decided not to. So Zach showed initiative and controlled the race. Look, when you're back in a 1,400 metres, it's very, very hard to take off mid-race. When you're in a mile, you can, but not a 1,400 because they're going that touch too quick. And when they go, everyone seems to go, whereas in a mile, they don't. They think, oh, it's a mile, we've got to give our horse a chance. So it's not that easy. And once you're back in a 1,400 metres, you're more or less committed to being back, so you cannot do much. And you don't see many horses in a 1,400 that are back taking off mid-race winning, whereas in a mile you do.
But if you are back and you're near last, would you be aware, Shane, that the tempo has dropped out of the race, that you're in big trouble, say 600 metres out? Do you know, or do you already know your fate?
100% you know that, and you can't do anything about it. And so I used to say to myself, right, now if I go round them, I can't win because it's a sprint home. Whereas if they go fast, you can come out and come round them because they're going to stop. But you can't, when you're back, go round them when they've gone slow, unless you can get there before they quicken. But they normally quicken from about the 600 to 500 at Sha Tin when they've gone slow. So you've left, and you just hope you can pick them up late, but you don't. As you've seen on Sunday with Silver Express, he was too good. It was a sprint home.
As always, love your insight and love learning from you like we do when we get to the Hong Kong Racing School. Hong Kong Racing School, Hutch, describe to us the different classes and horses moving up and down and the difference in the weights.
Yeah, well, I'll often sort of reference, this horse is one and now he goes up in grade, drops in weight, and we often use it as a recipe to try and find those winners in Hong Kong. But just to give you a quick recap of the upper limit of where these classes begin for as a reference point. The top of class 2 is 100, top of class 3 is rated 80, 60 for class 4 and 40 for class 5. So all the bands are in between that. But I'll often say, this horse is in form, he's won his last start or something along those lines. Now he goes up in grade but drops significantly in weight. And I think it's an important factor just to bear in mind as a tool is trying to find some of these winners going forward in Hong Kong. And I've got some information as well from at Sahil Race Quant, which Sahil does some fantastic works around the quants in Hong Kong racing in general. And this is just a pointer. So as you can see here, these are the percentage of winners from the amount of runners that we've had going up in grade and dropping in weight of those horses that have won. And you can see, wins, less expected wins, which is less the Hong Kong tote. They're taking the closing tote price of Hong Kong. That rise from class 4 to class 3 is a very valid one. They've got to 18.9% of winners, and it's beating the wins less expected wins is 11.1. So it's a pretty good figure. That you can see the jump from class 5 up to 4 is actually in the negative. So that's not a recipe generally for success. But rising in grade generally, if you're following those horses that are in form, going up in class with a lighter weight, even from class 4 all the way up to class 1, it's not a bad recipe. And I think it's something that, if you're just new to Hong Kong racing, you want to have a look at a way to beat the market potentially. Is something to take on board. And we appreciate the efforts there of Sahil who's provided us with that data. But I'm often referencing it, Richo. I know you read all the Hong Kong stuff that we send out every week, and we'll say this horse up in Gravy might drop, and they drop a lot in weight sometimes. Shane, they can drop up to sort of anywhere up to 8 or 9 kilos on occasions.
Yeah, true. The biggest class rise I always think is a promising class 4 going to class 3, and those statistics tell you they normally win because they go to class 3 with no weight and they're above average, and the young horse with no racing. What you got to remember in Hong Kong too, for people out there, is a lot of trainers run their horses down when they say, I'll take a 60 rated class 4. So if a horse gets to 61 or 62, he's ready for a drop, but he's still got a race in class 3. So the trainer may run him, if he's a miler, in a 1,200 meter race just to secure that drop. He's trying. It's just that he's in the wrong race so he can drop to class 4. And that's happened a lot. So you've got to watch that.
And Hutch, is there some trainers who are better than others at going through the grades or coming back down the grades?
Yeah, there definitely is, and we've got a graphic to show all that. I mean, David Hayes, we've got a small sample size with Hazy because he's only had the 21 this season, and I think Nervous Witness would probably be a big chunk of that. But John Size is a great one to follow. Frankie Law, of course, who was assistant trainer to John Size and is having a brilliant season this year. His numbers are excellent as well. The one that surprised me a little bit, Me Choi, he's up around that sort of 19% percentage winners and plus 4.8. But there's a little snapshot of some of the trainers probably to follow. I think John Size, year in, year out, Shane, is one that you can pretty much rely on.
He's been there, 21, 22 years, and he's always in the top 3 and normally wins it.
He is a star, and we're going to add a little star power to our program today with a young former champion jockey from South Africa calling Hong Kong home. Our very special guest is Luke Ferraris, who is a champion apprentice jockey in South Africa. His father was a famous trainer in South Africa and then a trainer in Hong Kong. So he was born and raised in many ways in Hong Kong racing. This is his first season. He's our very special guest. Luke, thanks so much for your time, mate. Welcome to the program, and it must be a huge thrill to be riding in Hong Kong.
Thank you very much for having me. It is a huge thrill. Massive dream of mine to have been racing here, and it's great that it's happening.
Let's go back to where it all started. When you're born in a racing family, it was an absolute given that you'd be a jockey?
I think it was. Mum and Dad did try to steer me away from it for a bit. I left Hong Kong at the age of about 10 to go back to boarding school. And then when I was just old enough, I wanted to go to the academy, and then that started to happen and ended up here.
Did we hear a lot about the academy? That South African Apprentice Academy is so well regarded. We in Australia see the end result, whether it be a Chad Schofield or Glyn Schofield in particular, and Jeff Lloyd, etc. They speak about it in such glowing terms. What was that like?
It was good. It was a huge learning curve, but I think their results sort of speak for themselves. They've produced some great riders. So it was great to get sort of the learning done there and learn. Well, I learned a lot.
Luke, how have you found in coming into Hong Kong and the differences between that style of racing, obviously out of South Africa? Has it taken a little while just to adapt to the different style of racing?
Yeah, it has. The racing South Africa compared to here is 2 different types of racing. South Africa is a lot more. I want to compare it to French racing, where it's sort of jumped out and very sort of relaxed, and everything happens a lot slower compared to Hong Kong, where it's just speed.
But you hit the ground running in South Africa. To win the Triple Crown as a young rider, describe that to us, and also, of course, highlighted by a South African derby.
It was great. Unfortunately, Sheikh Hamdan had passed away that same year, and he was a real special colt. He was bought at the sea. He was one of the sail toppers, and from a 2-year-old, I'd got on him, and I think we'd gone unbeaten into the Triple Crown, and he'd only been beaten a couple of times. But he didn't have a very long career because obviously once he had notched up the Triple Crown and still being a colt off a prize stallion that had also just passed away. His racing career wasn't that long, but he was very special, and the circumstances at the time were also made it just that extra bit special.
Shane, did you get a chance to ride at all in your career right over in South Africa?
No, I had a few opportunities to go there for special events, but I never went there. But it's different because the straights are long, correct, Luke? Very long straights, and you have a cutaway rail, so it opens up, so everything gets a run, don't they?
Yeah, you often see up in Johannesburg, they got very long straights. The one race course got about 1,000 meter running. The other one's about 800 meters. Same in Cape Town, it's about 600 to 800 meter run-ins. Durban, where they have the July, is fairly short. That's only about 450. But it's all very big, and the cutaway rails are always a lot, so everything opens up in the straight. So,
Luke, you're a young man growing up. You said that at 10 years of age, you went back to South Africa, back to boarding school. So when you were a young man and you're surrounded in Hong Kong racing, no doubt you came across Shane Dye. What was your impressions? Was he one of your heroes when you were growing up?
I was very young at that time. I do remember Shane faintly. I think I was more worried about playing in the playground and getting up to no good.
You and your sister were always in the playground. Luke, I thought you started slow, but you're starting to get better and you're picking it up and you're riding a lot better the last month, I think. Are you going to apply for next season to stay in Hong Kong or not?
Oh, yes, for sure.
Oh, great. That's really good because you can only get better.
Luke, just as in assessing your season as well, I mean, obviously it's it's a difficult as it gets environment to step into. What aspects of your riding or what part of your riding do you think you need to work on or to improve and to take that next step? Well, is there a specific area, or is it just more building relationships and getting trainers confident, or is there an area that you feel that you have improved and you need to improve further?
I think it's a lot of both, really. I think I've still got so much to learn and to improve on. Looking back, though, I think I'm not sure if Shane's going to agree or not, but I'd like to think that I've improved a bit from the time that I first got here to now.
Definitely, 100%.
I've been trying to stay off that slaughter list and get more energy.
You got one day.
Yeah, I know. I don't know. I watch all the episodes and I fast forward to that and I make sure I'm not on the slaughter and trying to sneak into the genius one. But
look, there was a ride there. I only watched it this morning when I was doing a form for the race, and it was a horse called Flying Sword last start. Right, you jumped out, you pushed him, and he was one off the fence. And the horse on the inside was Firebolt, who always comes back, and he was trying to come back. You should have just gone straight to the fence and led and dictated. As it was, Joe was 3 wide on like that, and he went to the fence and won the race, and instead you're back running 4th and then coming out 3 deep, whereas you could have got a very soft lead. Go and have a look at it. Just things like that you pick up, commit to leading when you could have. Do you know the race I'm talking about?
I do. It wasn't one of my finest moments. It was a bit funny, though, in the race. The horse on my inside was pulling and looked over, and I thought he was eventually going to start to let it stride. I think I made the wrong call, though. But I do know what you mean.
Yeah, just things like that. But honestly, I'd tell you if you weren't, you're riding so much better now than when you first come. So you're learning, and next season you'll go ahead again as long as you're getting the rides. It's just working it out. And it's so different for someone so young coming to Hong Kong from, Australia or South Africa, where the racing is slower and Hong Kong is so much faster, and you've got to adapt quicker and make split decisions very fast, as you would know.
12 wins so far for the season, Luke. Campione is one of those. Is that about where you thought you would be or where you hoped to be so early on in your career in your first season?
I'd be honest, I didn't really set myself too many set goals. I wanted obviously I wanted to ride winners as much as possible, but I've made no mistake. I know how tough Hong Kong is, and I didn't really want to get my hopes up, so I wanted to see how it goes first, and I'm fairly happy. I'd like to build my support base a bit more and get a few more rides from a few different trainers, and just ride more winners, really.
Luke, Campione's in on the weekend. He's running on the dirt. How did you think he'd run?
How do I think he's going to run on the dirt?
Yeah.
I can't see him being a dirt horse. I do think he's definitely a turf horse. I'm not so sure about the dirt.
Have you been on him track work on the dirt?
No. Mr. Cruz doesn't really use any jockeys for work in the mornings.
Why do you say you don't think he'll be a dirt horse, but he'll be a grass horse?
Just from the way that he's raced, I don't know if maybe he will. Just sort of feel he gave me. I think he's more of a turf horse.
Okay, interesting.
At the moment, you've got a little suspension, so you're not riding on Saturday. When do we see you back?
Next week, Wednesday.
Okay, how's that book of rides looking so far?
It's not a lot, but I think there's a bit of quality. The one Meridian Genius, I've only ridden him the one time, and that was a winner. He's up in grade, but he's shown that he can perform up in Class 3. Charizard's been running okay. On his day, he can put in a decent performance, and other one, Strathmore 2, has just dropped in a Class 5 and should be competitive there. And
is there a jockey that you aspire to be like, model yourself on, look as, gee, I tell you what, I'd love to be him in the future?
Yeah, there's a few. Obviously, Douglas stands out, coming from a similar sort of from South Africa, and now being in Hong Kong and doing what he did was very special, and modeled myself on him for a while in South Africa, and try to continue doing here. So maybe him.
Team, any more questions for Luke? Hey, we've got a quality young man here that I think that we're going to be chatting to for another decade, Hutch, I reckon, in Hong Kong.
Yeah, no, I've been impressed with Luke. I was watching actually him ride in South Africa before he went over. You know, we get obviously all their races here, and I thought he was riding terrific. In fact, I texted his dad one day and said, your son's flying. And look, I think from what Luke, the opportunities he's been given in Hong Kong so far, he's made a lot of progress, and he's going to have a lot more improvement in him than most. So I'm sure he'll do well, because big part of it as well, Richo, there is just knowing how the Hong Kong scene works, and you know, he can fine tune his skills as he gets more experience over there. But ultimately, you need the cattle, as you do anywhere, and I think he'll start to get that more and more. He's had a little bit of success with Tony Cruz. It'd be a good stable to get in with, and you know, there'll be some changes in the training ranks coming up as well. But he's only going to get better through this season. I think if Luke can end the season somewhere between 20 and 25 winners, he's done extremely well. There's been a lot of very successful jockeys go over and not ride that many in the stint. So he's done well. Wish him all the best, and just keep listening to RSI on the show, and I'm sure it'll get even better.
And Luke, and trust me, don't worry if he puts you into that little Veandercross file, the slaughter file. Don't worry, I'll tell him to be nice to you.
That's the most anxiety I get. Not riding a race. It's coming back and watching that. Maybe I don't make one to that.
Like I just say, I can see a race a little bit differently because I've ridden in it, and most people, as we know, don't. So it's like I watched a boxing fight with a professional boxer once, a world champion, and I thought this other bloke was winning. He said, no, the other bloke's way in front. He's got no hope, right? And sure enough, he was right. And he said, Shane, you're not seeing what I see. And it's what us jockeys, because we have ridden, Luke, as you know, we see things differently to normal people who don't realise. So I can only say it as I see it. I think you started slow. I think early on you rode average, but you've really picked up now and you're riding pretty well. I think you can still improve more. You're young. And just remember, everyone that goes to Hong Kong is not successful straight away, more or less, like the Douglas Whites or whoever. They didn't win a premiership straight away. It took time. And persevere, keep riding, lots of work, talking to owners, trainers, very important, as you know, and never knock back riding track work. The more track work you ride, the better chance you have of getting on horses, because jockeys always get suspended in Hong Kong, and you've got to be ready to get on their rides. And that's the way it works. But well done. Keep working at it. Don't give up, and you'll get there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good on you, Luke. We love your work, brother. Keep going. We're barracking for you, and thanks for being on the show.
Thanks very much for having me.
There is Luke Ferraris. What a young talent that man is. A quick break, a pause, and we'll get ready to find some winners. Hong Kong racing on Saturday. Hong Kong racing on Saturday. Quick update in the premierships. Moreira 103, Purton 101. So the lead of 2 there, and John Size leads Frankie Law by 2 in the training premiership, 64-62. Hutch, race number 7, the first race to assess.
Yeah, it's a really interesting race. We'll throw up my market here, and I'm not sure what the local market will do really, but I've got Flying Season, a pretty short price favourite. I think Run Cool will be close, or they'll be closer together on the Hong Kong tote. I've got him 550, but 4+ length winner with Zach Purton sticking. You'd imagine he'll be popular. And then a last start winner who I know Shane liked in Savvy Delight, I've got him third elect in the market around that 750. But we'll just talk quickly about Flying Season. And
one sec, Clint. Mr. Colourful is a scratching.
All right, well, we'll have some slight adjustments with him. He was actually quite an interesting runner in some respects, but he's out. There is actually one other one that will be a longer price in that race, but I'll still have him short Flying Season. He wasn't taking up a lot of market percentage, Mr. Colourful. And look, Flying Season, wasn't really surprised he did this to this field. He ran time, as Shane likes to say, on the day, comparative on the day, and he's only had a handful of starts. He's been extremely impressive. And I think it's an interesting race from this point of view. This win for me, Shane rated a lot better than Run Cool's 5-length or 4.5 length victory, and I thought he'd go on with this. So it's only his 4th start on the weekend.
Yeah, he's going to be very hard to beat. Here's Run Cool on the inside. Zach rode him. You've got to remember, this is Class 4. This was his first run in Class 4. He's been competitive in Class 3, and he's run well up the straight in Class 3, but he hasn't won. Now, the thing is, tomorrow, Clint, normally when they go from Class 4 to Class 3, they go in with a light weight. He's going into Class 3 with 129 pounds tomorrow. So he's got a very heavy weight.
Yeah, no, it's going to make it tough for him. What about Savvy Delight, the other one there, Shane? I know you liked him last start. It was a wet track that day at the Valley. Are you giving him much of a chance?
No, I'm not that keen. He's into Class 3 now. And his run 2 starts ago up the straight, he didn't go that well up the straight. And Flying Season, I think, beat him that day by about 6 or 7 lengths. So I'd have to have a look at the weight difference and that. But you'd think because they both won, because Savvy Kingdom has won and the Delight has won in the meantime, the weight will be exactly the same. So it's going to be hard for him to overturn it.
Anyway, Richo, yeah, Flying Season, I'll have him probably close to even money, if not odds on, with that scratching of Mr. Colourful, and think he's a very nice prospect and he'll be hard to beat.
Okay, and using the claim, which is interesting, we stay at Class 3. We move to race number 9. It's over 1,200 metres. Harmony and Bless with Zach Purton and Lightning Bolt Joe Moreira.
Yeah, this is a really good race, and a lot of these horses lined up against one another. The likes of Lightning Bolt, Man Star, Igniting, Drops of God, like that won the actual race. And we liked Lightning Bolt that night, who got in a 3-wide trail. But this is a great race shape for me for Lightning Bolt. There's a little bit more pressure. We'll get Shane's thoughts in 1 minute. But the last time they went around, there just actually surprisingly wasn't as much pressure for as you normally would see in a dirt 1,200 metre race. They pretty much went reasonably steady. You can see that by they're in groups of 3 there. So Joe controlled the race from that 3-wide no cover spot. Nothing wrong with that on the dirt. And then he kicked for home. They've all run home in good time, Shane. I think one of the fastest at the meeting was Lightning Bolt. I think we all liked him. He just couldn't quite get there with the sit and sprint nature. But I think he gets more pressure tomorrow. He's an exciting horse, and I think you'll see him win by a margin there, potentially, if he gets that race shape with Joe Moreira jumping on.
You got to remember this night too, Clint, that it was all on pace. It was an amazing on-pace dirt track. So his run was a little bit better than you realise because he was coming from midfield. I think he's going to be very hard to beat. I thought Caprione, the top weight, would run a race from gate 12, although Luke's kind of put a bit of a damper on that for some reason. And that's why I asked him why he didn't really think he would handle the dirt track. It's an interesting race. There's pace. Drops of God from gate 1's got to be given a chance. I think he would improve because he's had that one run back now. But I agree with you. Lightning Bolt's going to be very, very hard to beat.
It was interesting, just quickly, Richo, with Campione, because I wasn't sure. He's a brazen bow. He was 3 from 3, interestingly, in Italy. He's gone to Hong Kong. He's had one run, and then he's come out and won. Not easy to do, Shane. So, he's done a pretty good job, this horse. And I didn't mind him, and actually didn't mind him drawn out there, but he's going to be covering a fair bit of ground because a lot of pressure underneath him in this race.
And the question's got to be why? Why wouldn't he handle dirt compared to handling turf?
Well, I don't think he's had a trial on it yet. So I always like to look at the trials. All of his trials have been on the grass. I will have him in my numbers, definitely. I don't care about gate 12 because most winners from the 1,200 metres on the dirt come from gate 12. You can check. I haven't checked recently, but it's been the case for 100 years there, because they're out of the kickback, they're running forward, and they're getting into a posse without getting into trouble. And that's why they win. He's going to be forward, but there is pace in the race, as Clint said, and I wouldn't like to see him being up there 4 wide. But I think he's got enough pace to more or less get across one off the fence. And if he does and he handles the dirt, I still think he's going to be very hard to beat with Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, I found him a hard one to assess. Just more so from the map point of view. I thought if he could run well, if he did the Harmony and Blessed and etc. in the race, it's not going to be easy. But he was
you're not going to clear Harmony and Blessed.
No,
he can lead anything if he wants to.
Yeah.
And I think Zach's on him, and Zach commits on the dirt if he's got a leader, So he's not going to lead him. What else is there? Light That goes forward. Magic Supreme goes forward. Sonny Boy can go forward if he wants, although he's been getting back. There's a few there that can go forward.
Manstar and Like That, based on that race that we just showed, that they're going to hold their spots. And that's why, irrespective of all that, Lightning Bolt should get a good run just parked in behind them.
Correct.
Then we move to race number 10. We go back to the turf. We're in a class 3. It's over 1,400 metres. Zach Purton's on Silvestre. And Joe Moreira's on a horse named after Shane, the Hulk.
Yeah, it could be. It wasn't a bad run last start from the Hulk, actually, but I was a little, I think the barriers probably made it difficult for him. They've got to be a little one-dimensional now and probably give him a chance from there. But look, we're going to have a look. I think it's the Super Dynamite win because a lot of the key runners come out of that race. Shane, I don't know what you thought, but I thought they're going to find it hard to beat this horse again. The tempo was pretty strong. We got Super Winner in the race again. He'll go forward and... a couple covered ground, co-partner Admission and Horseame Bolt, but Super Winner was pretty dominant here. And you'd look at his win before. He ran second to Galaxy Witness, and that hasn't been a bad form reference.
No, that's true. He's done nothing wrong. He's actually improving with every run now. Last 3 runs, he's gone up a notch every time. So he should get a good run just in behind them from gate 5. I still think Sylvester's the horse to beat from gate 3. The only bad run he's ever done in his life was when he had a heart irregularity, when Ryan Moore rode him International Day, that was. So from gate 3, Zach on, he's racing well. He never goes bad. I think I would have him ahead of him. And they've been running in different races. So... he would be my pick, but I totally agree. Super Dynamite's got a great chance, Clint.
Okay, so Hutch Super Dynamite to back up. Also, worth noting, on Saturday in Sydney, in the Frank Packer Plate, you'll see a horse by the name of Straight Aaron who won the Carbine Club. That's going to be the last time he races in Australia. He's going to go to Hong Kong. He'll be set for a Hong Kong derby. Shane, I reckon he's the real deal, this guy. His win in the Carbine Club was fantastic. Goes out to 2,000 metres on Saturday. Straight Aaron's his name, off to Hong Kong.
He's looking for 2,000. He's a really nice horse. I actually saw his first run, which was really good. He hit the line strongly, but it was too short. He backed it up in the Carbine. Those horses that run in the Carbine are promising horses, but he's more than promising. He could be a really nice horse, that horse. Yeah. And 2,000 metres is really going to be up his alley. Who gets him in Hong Kong?
Yeah, do we know what trainer?
No, I'm not. I didn't know. I'm not sure. But look, he'd be a nice horse. I believe it or not, when he won at Sandown not that long ago. I think might have been last preparation. I backed another horse in the race, and he went swinging on by, and he was pretty good form. That as it turns out, and he's gone on with the job. He's got a bit of wet track form at the moment, but he's just as good on top of the ground. He's a very nice prospect.
Yeah, looking forward to that. What's your best bet for Saturday, Hutch?
Oh, I think Flying Season is definitely the one. He's, like I said, I've got him marked pretty short. It's an interesting race. I'm hoping that the Hong Kong market gets around Run Cool and potentially Savvy Delight with Moreira size, improving horse, some of those stats that we showed. So they won't let him get too big, and Run Cool, just the margin, hopefully will take a bit of chunk out of the market. We might be able to be on Flying Season, but I think Jerry Chow, all he's got to do is jump, get to that outside fence, let him roll, and he'll be very, very hard to beat.
Don't forget, a reminder, next week we've got the QET Cup, the Champions Mile, the Champions Sprint Prize. Group 1 racing is going to be absolutely fantastic. And Hutchi's Honkers with a full analysis of that leading in next week. Shane, is there a early bet that's caught your eye this week?
I'm on my computer now going through. Clint was, Jesus, you were early here. I've got to agree with Flying Season. He can win. I'm just looking now. Actually, Class 1's a very good Class 5. There's a lot of Class 4 horses coming down, and there's a couple of horses. I tipped you Seas of Spirit last start. It didn't have the right run. It's got gate 10 again. Needs a gate to win. That's the worry. But it's quite a strong race. But Ernest Feeling from gate 2 coming back to 1400. I'm just looking now. That's why I'm not looking at you. He's going to be suited. He could race closer, and he gets his chance. Although Dragon Baby's coming down in class, and Amazing News is coming down in class, and Red Brick Fighter's coming down in class. So it's a strong Class 5. But I'll throw a little bit one in, which should be good odds. Ernest Feeling could go better.
And Shane, make me envious. So let me understand this. On tomorrow afternoon, your good mate, the Hutchbuster, will arrive at your facility on the Gold Coast. There'll be a couple of races to go. Take us from there. What will be going on?
Well, I'll finish up the races, have a few bets, and then I'll do the accounts, and then I'll say, Hutch, just give me 10 minutes while I get my face ready, and I'll have a shower and do my face. And I might do the hair, and I'll say, let's go down to Kelly Beach, and we'll go and have some dinner, and then we'll go from there probably to White Rhino. And then after that, I think I better send him home. He better not go to the bedroom. I might be a bit young for him in the bedroom.
He's effectively the mayor of the Gold Coast, Richo, so I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, Hutch, you're in really safe hands. I can't see anything that could go wrong.
Exactly.
Hey, boys, have a great time. Hopefully we back a stack of winners tomorrow. Keep in mind, hutchieshonkers.com, Saturday racing this week. Not Sunday, Saturday racing. Jump on Hutchie's Honkers, follow all the form there, and we look forward to your company next week. Goodbye.